Hey everybody, David Essel here with you, and we are talking real recovery tonight. I have been in this world for a very long time, but in the business of personal growth for 43 years now. And after 1990, so much of my work radically changed, and we ended up doing the work in relationships and mental health recovery, addiction recovery, which is what this little Facebook Live is going to be about tonight. So glad that you're with us. Share the videos, comment below if you have any comments whatsoever. I'm going to give you a short, really hard hitting program tonight. We're going to get right to the basis of it. So, number one, I want to share this with you. No one is a freaking alcoholic or addict for life, baby. There is no such thing. I don't care what Alcoholics Anonymous says. I don't care what Nicotine Anonymous says. I don't care what Food Addicts Anonymous says. I don't care what Al Anon says. All of these 12-step programs are freaking insane. Now, if you're sitting here watching, you're going, but I got sober 30 years ago and I've never cross-addicted and I'm not a dry drunk and I've never relapsed and AA was the healing source. Well, then don't change a thing. But for the 90% of people that 12 steps fails, now you're in the right place. You're home here. You're home with David Essel. You know, I created a program 30 years ago, David Essel's Permanent Addiction, Alcohol, and Life Recovery. And for 30 years, we've been doing stuff that very few other people are doing. I can think of Gabor Mate. Dr. Gabor Mate is one of the leaders in this field of recovery that truly understands what I'm going to be talking about tonight. He's actually, I've never met him, I never talked to him, but I love him. I think he's brilliant. There aren't a lot of other people I can tell you that I think are brilliant in recovery because most people are sucked into the vortex of AA, sucked into the vortex of 12 steps. 12 steps is not a successful program. We have proof that has about, well, and I'm going to tell you the optimistically, okay? Optimistically, 12 steps has a 10% success rate. That's a 90% failure rate. And I'm being optimistic. If you look at people like Bob Long, who used to own opiate treatment centers for years, Tammy Danio, that owned multiple treatment centers in Malibu, California, one of the hotbeds of treatment. When you talk to them and they say, David, we are so sick of AA. We are so sick of 12 steps. Narcotics Anonymous is one of the greatest places to go to get narcotics. Did you hear what I just said? Narcotics Anonymous meetings are one of the best places to go to get your opiates, your Valium, your Xanax, anything you want. Go to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. I have people all the time that I'm working with that tell me when they go to the meetings, they're always met either by someone sitting next to them or someone standing outside with the very drug that they're in the meeting to try to get off of. Okay, that tells you that program is not very successful. And again, I want to say this, for people that are into AA and into 12 steps and it works, that's great. Patty Palumbo, and you guys know that we have a brand new book. Okay, this is the program that I created 30 years ago. David Essel's Permanent Alcohol and Life Recovery. We cover all addictions, okay, not just alcohol, we cover them all. But it's the same thing. I'll read a quote from the back of the book. This is from a former client of mine, Patty Palumbo. Without David's one-on-one counseling and his unique program, which is this program right here, Permanent Recovery, AA would have never been enough to keep me sober. I mean, this is one of a million quotes I could give you from people we've worked with over the past 30 years. You know, and yet still, when I'm on interviews for radio and TV, the host will go, David, I double checked your statistics. You're correct. AA has a 10% success rate. So here's a question for you. Why is it the only program people talk about? Why is it the program people always go to and say AA is, and I'll tell you what, the reason why is because people have not opened their eyes. They're walking in the rooms and they think that's recovery. They're sitting in a meeting for 60 minutes and it has nothing to do with recovery. Oh my God, you can sit in meetings 12 hours a day and never recover. You can sit, did you hear what I just said? Meetings don't help people recover. Doing the work helps people recover. And that's why I'm with you today. So what is the work? Step one, when we work with people, whatever the addiction is, we go to the origin. We want to find out the origin of an addiction. Was there trauma? Was there molestation? Do they have low self-esteem? Were they bullied as a child? Did they have parents that were emotionally unavailable? Did they have parents that were addicts? What is the origin of the addiction? Because when you go to the origin of addiction, you can logically get your brain wrapped around, no wonder why I drink. No wonder why I don't know how to handle stress. In my household growing up, whenever mom and dad were stressed, they ate food. So my parents were always 200 pounds overweight. I'm 100 pounds overweight. And it's not genetics. University of Florida a number of years ago did an amazing study on genetics and obesity, and they found that 10% only of obese individuals had any kind of genetic link to obesity. Isn't that mind-blowing? So we know it's not genetics. And here we go back to the 12-step program that tells us it's genetics. It's a disease. Whatever addiction you have, it's not your fault. It's a disease. Bullshit. It is your fault. Just like it was my fault. Hey, I don't have a problem calling programs out that are completely ineffective. I don't have a problem calling myself out. I was completely ineffective. Listen, even in my beginning years as a counselor, as an executive coach, a number one best-selling author, all the stuff I do, a minister, I was still an alcoholic and addict, getting people clean every freaking month, forever, permanently recovered. I couldn't do it on my own. And going to meetings wasn't going to cut it. Going to meetings to me is potentially an absolute waste of time. When you go into a 12-step meeting and you hear that it's caused by a disease, it's not your fault. That gives you a foot out the door. That means that you're ready for relapse. Because all you have to do is raise your hand and say, the reason I had a drink is because it's a disease. It's my genetics. I don't have a choice. That's what happens when you have a disease. It's nonsense, ladies and gentlemen. It really is ridiculous. It's nonsense. How do I know it's nonsense? Because I'm one of millions upon millions of people that fully recovered, never had a craving for a drink, even in the worst experiences of my life, and you can do the same thing. But we've got to get away from these programs, these 12-step programs. Unless they're willing to take our advice and to bring people in to help them reshape their whole program, every one of the freaking 12-step programs has to be updated to 2023. We're in 2023, and they're working off of data from 1935, 1940, for God's sake. What business in the world today is successful and creating huge success in people's lives that hasn't changed their program in 80 years? I can tell you, zero. Nada. Nada, nada. None. There isn't a business in this world alive that isn't on computers, that isn't doing the most updated information in regards to marketing, selling, fulfillment, etc., except for the 12-step organization. And if there's anyone watching, and I always share this, and we share it in the book, if anyone from the 12-step organization reached out and said, David, you're right. You and Gabor Mate and all these other people have really kept up with the science behind addiction and recovery. You understand the behavioral challenges that are there. You understand the psychological challenges. You understand the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind. Listen, sponsors in these programs, they do the best they can, but they're not educated. They could be creating more harm than good. Because if you don't know how to work with someone that was sexually molested at a young age, that became an alcoholic, or was abandoned emotionally by their parents at a young age and became an addict, if you don't know psychology, get the hell out of here in regards to being a sponsor. Become a certified coach. We have a program right now for all AA sponsors. If you really want to up your game and learn how to help people, go to talkdavid.com or davidessel.com. We have a certification, a 40-hour certification. Listen, I went to 120 AA meetings. I only went because I told myself I was going to go. And I had to hold myself to my own word. It's called integrity. And I couldn't wait for the 120 days to be over with. I walked away and said, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to raise my hand and say I'm an alcoholic when I haven't had a drink. I'm not going to raise my hand and say that I'm a cocaine addict when I haven't snorted cocaine. When you say those words, and I was in meetings and there were men and women with 20, 30, 40 years of recovery, supposedly recovery. They're going, hi, I'm Jim, I'm an alcoholic. Do you know what that does to your brain? Do you know what that does to your subconscious mind? Which, of course, no one in that industry knows. That organization has a clue of what the conscious versus subconscious mind is. They wouldn't even know where to find the subconscious mind. They wouldn't know how to help you turn it around. And knowing about the subconscious mind is one of the most important freaking things that anyone in the world of recovery knows you have to deal with. You have to deal with the origin, which means you go to 0 to 6. If you ask a sponsor from any of the 12-step programs, how important is 0 to 6 in an individual's growth in regards to addiction, they won't know because they have no education. Listen, I know sponsors do the best they can, but that's one of the reasons we have a 90% failure rate in your program. It's one of the reasons our permanent alcohol and addiction recovery program that we've been teaching for 30 years has been so successful, because we work our butts off. We stay updated. When you get this new book, you're going to see studies in there from our own government from 2019 about microdosing with LSD. And I know, and people, if you're engaged in AA right now, you're going to freak out and go, oh my God, that's a cross addiction. And it shows how little you know. That would be like saying to someone who's suffering from severe clinical depression that if you take an antidepressant, you're cross addiction. Isn't that crazy? And yet at these meetings, we have people chain smoking cigarettes outside before they go in, cross addiction, vaping nicotine before they go in, cross addiction, eating cookies and brownies in meetings, cross addiction, drinking 17 cups of coffee at a meeting, cross addiction. That's cross addiction. When you're taking something like a microdosing of psilocybin mushroom, which our own FDA government is working on right now, and it's going to come to approval without a question. I believe the first one that's going to come to approval is going to be MDMA or ecstasy, believe it or not. In the state of New Mexico, it's already approved for professionals to use that in the help of anxiety and depression. You see, and in our book, David Essel's Permanent Alcohol and Life Recovery Program, which, by the way, you can get an absolutely free copy of at davidessel.com or talkdavid.com. We have a whole section about the future of recovery with microdosing. It doesn't mean you have to microdose, but there's options out there. Or what about brain chemistry? How many people in the 12-step programs talk about brain chemistry supplementation? They don't, because they don't know anything about it. But we do. So if I'm working with someone, one of the first things I want to put people on are dopamine enhancing supplements, amino acid supplements. You can get them at Amazon for $15 a month, my God. And they work. They're incredible. I've used them since 1990. You see, I feel so blessed. I had Dr. Stan Meyerson in 1990. Rest in peace, Stan. One of the leading, most knowledgeable people with amino acid supplementation and addiction. That was in 1990. Has 12-Step ever added anything viable to their program since the 30s or 40s? Well, the answer is no. What about Dr. Hyla Cass, another phenomenal individual in the world of addiction recovery, a psychiatrist for God's sake, who understands the power of amino acid supplementation? Or I've talked about Dr. Gabor Mate. Dr. Mate is phenomenal. He understands that what we go through as a child, that separation from healthy parents, that inability to come out of childhood with strong self-confidence and strong self-esteem, the individuals that are bullied and they're not healed or they don't go into therapy as a child, they end up coming out as addicts. The workaholic father that's never around, that's a stepping stone to addiction. The codependent mother that does whatever the father says, even if the father's an idiot, that's a stepping stone for the child's addiction. You see, you have to know psychology in order to help people get clean. It's one of the reasons why 12-Step has a 90% failure rate. Now, it might seem like I'm coming really hard on 12-Step, because I am. I'm so sick and tired of people raving about 12-Step, raving about a program that has a 90% failure rate. So let's get up to date. Okay, number one, origin of addiction. Once we find the origin of addiction, the conscious mind can lock in and go, okay, that's why I'm drinking. That's why I'm overeating. That's why I still vape. That's why I still smoke cigarettes. See, you have to have that. So that's going to be step number one, okay? Step number two, you've got to write your addiction story out. And we have a format that we teach people how to write your addiction story. The addiction story is crucial, and it has to be in writing. And we teach people how to do it, okay? That's step number two. Step number three, complete surrendering to our program. And what does that mean? Every day, there's going to be rituals that we ask our clients to go through in regards to recovery. There'll be journaling exercises, there'll be reading exercises, there'll be videos to watch, there'll be all kinds of things because it's called work. You're not sitting with me for an hour talking about nothing. We're talking about homework. Now, you go to a 12-step meeting, is there any homework? If you're working with a sponsor, is it viable homework? Are they taking you to the core? Are they finding your origin? Are they describing the difference between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind? Because if you don't know the difference between the conscious and subconscious mind, you're screwed. If you don't know how to turn that subconscious mind from a saboteur into an ally, you're screwed. Now, all these things I'm talking about, I know people who are sponsors right now today in 12-step. I know people, and they don't know any of this. They come to me because they don't know any of this. They go to the meetings for socialization, basically. They go to the meetings just to hang out with their friends, but they come to me to heal. They come to me to get recovered, and I'm not the only one that knows how to get people clean and sober without some ridiculous 12-step program. There are a lot of us, and that's why I'm becoming so assertive in my work in the world of recovery. I'm sick and tired of this country going downhill. Do you know what the obesity rate is now in the United States of America? 45% of Americans are obese. You put in another 40% who are overweight. That's called food addiction. Food, food addiction. Don't blame your genetics. And then I'll have clients that'll come to me and say, well, I was in 12-step meetings for Food Addicts Anonymous or Overeaters Anonymous, and the very first thing they said was, your mom or dad overweight? And I said, yes. And they go, it's genetics. It's not your fault. What a bunch of crap. And didn't I just quote a little while ago from the University of Florida study that 10% of people that are obese actually have some genetic link? That means 90% do not. That means it's lifestyle. And what does all this mean? It means that we use substances like food, nicotine, alcohol, pot, drugs, social media addiction, video game addiction, all the nonsense with arguing over politics. We use addictions to escape our own reality. There are benefits to addictions. Did you hear what I just said? If there weren't benefits to addictions, we wouldn't do it. I used substances for 30 years to escape my depression that was undiagnosed, my anxiety that was undiagnosed, ADD and ADHD that was undiagnosed. I had all these undiagnosed mental challenges. And all I knew how to do was to take substances to medicate myself to temporarily get away from my depression, anxiety, ADD, and ADHD. But you can never get away from them by drinking or eating food or using any other, gambling for God's sake, or porn addiction is through the roof. I was self-medicating because I didn't know what else to do. I was self-medicating because I didn't know the origin that was creating that craving. And then let's go to low self-confidence. You know, people look at me as a hyper-confident person, and I always have been very, very confident, right? But in my world of addiction, I wasn't at all at the level people thought I was. Because when I went to a networking event, I had a couple glasses of wine before I went to the event. And then once I got there, I would go right to the bar and grab another glass or two of wine and then walk around. And then I had liquid courage, right? Okay, well, if you need a substance to take away your anxiety, that's called addiction. If you need a substance to take away your low self-confidence because walking into a room where you know nobody is overwhelming to you, you've just created an addiction. But the problem isn't the alcohol, the cocaine, the food. The problem isn't the video games at all. The problem is within us. We have not learned how to deal with life. In our permanent alcohol and addiction life recovery program, we help you recover your life. That's why there's all these steps we take you through. See this right here? One of the most powerful tools, as simple as it is. You can use a rubber band to start. This is called a HUNA band. Cognitive behavioral therapy is one of the quickest ways to destroy cravings for alcohol, nicotine, pot, food, anything. Cognitive behavioral therapy is amazing, but you won't find it talked about in any 12-step meeting. You won't find any sponsors teaching you how to do it because no one knows anything about this there. What about meditation? Do you know when they do brain scans of addicts, the brain is nonstop, 24 hours a day. It's like lightning all the time. It's constantly craving, thinking. And I'll tell you my own story. I remember when I was an alcoholic, I'd go and speak somewhere, and if it was within driving distance, the very first thing I would do when I got done with the speech, and my speeches, praise God, he gave me a lot of great talents, were always really highly recommended, and we'd get 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 all the time. But what did I do on the way home from a speaking event? I stopped at a store and got a bottle of wine. I had a wine opener and I had cups in my car 24/7. And on the way home, if it was an hour drive, I'd finish a bottle of wine. Why? Because I didn't have the ability or the understanding of what it meant to be emotionally regulated, of how to handle life without drinking, without snorting cocaine. Boredom, excitement. Isn't that interesting? Those are two of the most, I guess you could say, powerful emotions that people will rely on their addiction for. So you're bored and you go to porn. And porn is an amazing escape from reality. You're bored and you have a drink. You're bored and you have a cigarette. You're bored and you eat donuts, right? I mean, it's crazy that boredom can be that powerful in the world of addiction, but it can be. If we don't understand the world of emotional regulation, which is something else you'll never hear in a 12-step meeting, if we don't understand these type of things, we cannot heal, I mean, my hope, and I have huge hope, but my hope is that we start a movement that grows at the level it's growing right now. When we post on YouTube, we have some of the most beautiful comments of people saying, thank you, God, thank you, David, for coming out and finally speaking the truth. Anyone in the world can heal from their addiction. Mine was very deep, very serious. And how did my addiction finally grab my attention? With a failed suicide attempt in 1990. That's how it grabbed my attention. Mr. Motivation, motivational speaker, motivational coach, motivational counselor, addict and alcoholic. And the straw was broken on my back. The straw was broken on the camel's back. I couldn't handle it anymore. 30 years of waking up feeling slow or hungover. 30 years of it finally reached a pinnacle where I was crashing. I was dying inside, but I didn't let anyone see it. Because most of us alcoholics and addicts are masters of manipulation. We are incredible how we can lie and hide how much we use. I did it for 30 years. There was only one person that knew, and he didn't even know the full amount. But there was one person that knew that I had a pretty serious addiction, and that was my brother Terry. But besides him, people that I hung out with knew, but they were all alcoholics and addicts. But there was never one client that was ever affected. I would make sure that I got to bed at a certain hour. I would sleep in late if I had to. I would start sessions at noon if I had to, so that I would be fresh. But it destroyed me, and it almost took my life. And that's why I'm so committed to your mental health and to your recovery. And I'll never change. Let me read something from one of the many, so many people are endorsing this book and our program. It's really crazy. Bob Long ran opiate treatment centers for over 10 years. He got so frustrated with the 12-step program and with the lack of success that he sold his businesses. But this is what Bob said when he read my book and saw my program. David Essel's recovery program should be instituted with every, and those are capital letters, every, treatment center and therapist who deals with addiction treatment, period. That's from an addiction treatment center owner. Tammy Danio, and she's the other one I mentioned, a treatment center owner from Malibu, California. David is a trailblazer in recovery, and his book is The Blueprint of the Future. The future is here now. Now, I share these with you not to brag. I don't need to brag. These people brag for me. I don't have to tell you our program is phenomenal. They're telling you themselves, and that's what I love about this work. I don't have to say a freaking thing other than this. No one is an addict for life unless they choose to be. No one is an alcoholic for life unless they choose to be. It's all a matter of choice. Does genetics have a role? A minor one. A very minor one. And let me tell you what it is. My family tree is filled with alcoholics. I've had family members die horrendous, slow deaths from alcoholism. So, do I have the gene? Yeah. My brother Terry, yeah. He got sober. I got sober. We have the gene. But you know, in the last number of years with my mom and dad dying slowly, horrendous deaths, neither of us ever thought once about having a drink. The only way genes come into play is if you have a drink. If you have a gene for alcoholism and you have a drink, at some point that gene will get turned on. And then 1 turns into 4, and 4 turn into 8, and 8 can easily turn into 10. That's what happened to me. That's what happens to a lot of people. Now, we end up having the ability to really drink a lot over time. And we can get away with it. Real alcoholics can get away with it. We can have a smile on our face, and we can have a bottle and a half of wine down our throat, and you may not even know it. We're that clever. What I say to all my addicts and alcoholics that I work with is I said, let's take your cleverness. Let's take your manipulation. Let's take your creativity of how you found the money to continue drinking or how you convinced someone to get you more drinks or whatever it is. Let's use that creativity to get clean and sober for life. Life recovery includes exercise, nutrition, brain chemistry supplementation, the power of the subconscious mind, like with cognitive behavioral therapy, and learning how to turn it around. I talked about the origin. I talked about the addiction. Also, it means you don't hang out with the same people that you drink with, get high with, do social media with, or play video games with. Life recovery. It's not even about the substances, gang, anymore. When you work with me, you're going to be blown away. Of course, we'll talk about your past. But when it comes to the present and you getting recovered for life, oh my God, it's not even about the substances. That's what blows people away. It's about our inability to deal with what life throws at us. And we're going to teach you how to deal with what life throws at us. I want you to be so freaking successful that you walk away from our program never needing to come back. You know, when you go into the 12-step programs and they say, as long as you keep coming back, you'll stay sober. Well, first of all, it's a complete lie. You can go and sit in 100 meetings a day. It has nothing to do with you being sober or recovered, okay? And that's also creating codependent people. Because then people start to, I remember when I was in those meetings, people go, oh, no, I can't miss this Sunday. I said, what do you mean you can't miss Sunday? Oh, no, I have 400 days in a row. I can't miss Sunday. I'm not going to be able to make my little boy's baseball game, but I'll be here Sunday. I don't want clients like that. I don't want clients afraid that if they're going to miss a session or a meeting that they're going to relapse. That's not teaching people how to recover at all. I want people to get fully, permanently recover with our program, and then I want them to go. And I want them to repeat what I teach them for the rest of their life, and I want them happy. I don't want them anchored down to some meeting they have to go to every day. That's not freedom, that's codependency. Let's get free together. Join us at davidessel.com or talkdavid.com. Our program will kick butt. It helps everyone. You'll read endorsements from my clients in there that never, ever, ever thought they'd get sober. And here's a crushing thing I'm going to tell you. You'll read a story in our new book about an executive, a very successful executive who was a screaming, raging alcoholic. And once he got sober, his 17-year-old daughter wrote me this most beautiful letter saying, oh my gosh, Mr. Essel, I never thought I'd have a real dad. I now have a real dad. Sometimes when I've read that letter 100 times, sometimes when I read it, it still brings tears to my eyes. That's the power of recovery, of real recovery. If you believe that you're an addict or an alcoholic for life, you're going to relapse. And what does it mean to be sober? See, we don't even put people into the category of recovery until they have 365 days in a row of sobriety. Now, when you hit 366 and you haven't cross-addicted and you haven't relapsed, on day 366, you're officially in recovery. Only 10% of people in 12-step programs will ever make 365 days in a row without relapse or cross-addiction. Think about those numbers. Hey, join me at davidessel.com, talkdavid.com. I'll put the websites below. Let's recover for life. I'm David Essel with good news about recovery. Have a beautiful day.